Ghost Coat Magazine welcomes in Eryka from Coma. How are you today, Eryka?
I am doing pretty good, I would say. You doing good?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the world is at war. Everything's falling apart, but thankfully we still have riffs and music and art.
Yeah, right. It's plenty of content, right, to pull from.
No shortage of stuff. Thank you for making time in your busy day for us from your car. I much appreciate it. You have your debut EP for Coma, not your first musical project, but the current thing with a thing coming out, and followed the band for a while because this is when nobody's like a Doom fan temporarily. Everybody loves stoner and psychedelic and Doom music. You're usually a lifer, so yeah, you have an interesting group. It's like a two-piece combo band, but it's very heavy and these songs are weighty, man. I've spent a lot of time spinning this one, and so I wanted to start, just as I like to do, go back to the comic book issue number 1, open to page 1, and what would that story be of how Coma formed?
So I would say maybe like winter of 2018, like December, Steve and I actually got together and started piecing stuff. But I've been writing music most of my life. All of these songs that are on the EP, I pretty much made full skeletons of and was just looking for a percussionist. Or initially with the band, I envisioned being in a 3-piece band. This is like my first legitimate project that I started with somebody else. So a few years ago, I kind of made these skeletons of songs and shopped around, trying to find people to play with, see where the songs could go. And ultimately, I ended up with my drummer that I have now, Steve, who is a longtime friend. I've known him for probably 10 years. And it's pretty funny. We always tell everybody this story that it was pretty much a meme among our friends group that we should be a band, because everybody always said it forever. They were like, you and Eryka should jam. I think you could create something really cool. And then we're like, yeah, that'd be fun. And then 10 years go by and it never happens. And Steve's been in a bunch of different other musical projects. So that was another factor, was just he was always busy. And it was hard to make time to get together and do stuff. So it just so happened that I ended up finally hitting him up at the right time. And I had picked up bass and fleshed out these songs. It was just like, hey man, I have all these songs. Do you want to maybe try to be a band? Are you into it? And we jammed a bunch, and now we're here and we're going to be releasing an EP in April that we've been trying to get recorded and released for a good 2 years now. The pandemic did not help with that. So
that was my next question. And, of course, as the world is, swirling, I hope you're well. I hope everybody's well in your life. But, I see, just making sure you can hear me okay. Yeah, that's better. Hopefully all that recorded. Jesus Christ, what a day. Anyway, I was going to ask about the pandemic because, we've talked about it ad infinitum, and it just kind of creeps into every interview. And I don't mean to harp on it. I don't really think we're out of it. But, hopefully you and Steve and all your friends and family are as well as can be today. A lot of people have lost a lot. And just anybody working in music or trying to make it in music, we all have lost, stuff. So I know, it goes back and forth. I talked to somebody yesterday who was an introvert who was like, oh, the pandemic was perfect because I could just stay home. I didn't have to lie about not going out and just make riffs. And I was like, that's really cool because, I'm a social person, but I understand the opposite, inclination. But yeah, so the pandemic made it a struggle a little bit, you're saying.
So it was funny. So we had an interview earlier today. We were on this podcast, Every Podcast I Love Is Dead. And we kind of touched on this as well, talking about the pros and cons to all that isolation time. I would say it sucked in some ways because Steve and I finally got together. It was right before all of this started unfolding. It was we started playing shows in summer of 2019. Then we had plans to go record the EP in March of 2020. So before anybody had any idea that's when everything was going to, hit the ceiling, we had plans to go down to Philly and record this. And it was I think we were supposed to go March 20th or the 22nd or something like that. And literally that was days, just days out from my job shut down. Everything shut down. It was the initial, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks and see what happens. And then 3 months go by and everything's all weird and dystopian. And so that part sucked because it's we were finally starting, we were getting shows, we had some festivals we were going to play, we were going to record, and then all that stops and there's an indefinite amount of time until we can get to do any of that. But we just kept communicating through the pandemic. Like I was still writing because my job shut down. So I had 3 months to just like hang out and do art. And honestly, for me, it was a really helpful time. Like I got to sit down and practice bass and write more songs and send stuff back and forth to Steve. And we kind of got to revise some things, like maybe things that we planned on going into the studio with. We kind of changed our mind about how we wanted to do some stuff. I ended up writing a solo album during that time period and recording it and creating lots of art and just reevaluating what I was doing with my life, like I think a lot of other people did as well. And so for us, I feel like it was a little beneficial so we could really refine what we were doing and then be more ready to go into the studio. And we've talked about that. We're like, honestly, I don't even know if we were really truly ready in 2020. Like, I think it was good that we had that time to think about it, practice more, and then just write more music and build more connections with people, like over the internet as well, because that's how everybody was corresponding. And there were so many like collaboration projects people were doing, and like that part of it was really cool.
Right on. That sounds awesome. And, you know, again, like we've all gone through a journey, it seems, together and apart, unfortunately, but super stoked for this self-titled debut EP. And I have many questions more about the music and the lyrics and things itself. I really love, as a former and retired bassist, I love your bass playing and I love your bass tone.
Thank you.
And there's no guitar is missing in this band. It's really like riffs are very heavy. I was thinking of Year of the Cobra. I was thinking of Jucifer with a little less noise, not that wall of noise, but that kind of vibe. And even other things, older bands like Today Is the Day, early Neurosis, when it was like just messy and there wasn't a genre yet for that like post-metal sludge. There wasn't quite a genre, but I really dig these compositions. Steve complements the bass playing perfectly, but I wanted to ask kind of your approach. So you taught yourself and, or, you know, learned bass. And so, you know, do you approach bass like, I'm the riffer of the band, or do you play like I'm a bassist with no guitar player or something else?
I kind of try to blend the two together, because I started as a guitarist, and when I was searching for bands, I started with guitar. And then once I started getting serious about finding people and actually jamming, I was like, I actually don't enjoy playing guitar and singing in front of a band like that. And so I just made this impulse switch of like, what if I picked up a bass instead? And I love it so much more. Like it feels more natural to me and organic, and it made songwriting like a lot easier for me, and it helped me understand music a lot more as well, and like how to be dynamic. I don't know, I go between, I definitely play it like a guitar player, but I have also feel like I've learned when to pull off and just kind of like ride a groove, you know, the way that bass is just kind of like that groove, that soul of like, you know, any musical project. But yeah, I when I first started out writing riffs on bass, I definitely tried to overcompensate a lot because I'm the only string instrument. So I'd feel like every single line would be like, I'd be trying to vary it up with all these nuances and make it all super complicated and fill every single note and all the space. But I've learned through practicing and playing, and then even recording and listening back, like that's not necessary. Like as long as you have substantial material, like if it's a good song, you don't need to embellish it so much and be so overcomplicated. It's just finding that balance between like when to go heavy in and when to pull back and just kind of like ride the feeling. So that's what I'm trying to figure out with this band. You know, with each thing you create, you kind of like reanalyze it and you're like, okay, well, I could see how I could change this here. And then like, ooh, like I could incorporate this here on the next thing. And like, it's all just, you're learning as you go and creating. So, I definitely look at other bands too. I've been really into looking at other two pieces like Death from Above 1979 and Royal Blood, and just like watching them live and seeing how they go back and forth with each other. Like what kind of, if there's any tricks, like pedals, looping, how they just set up their amps, like if they split the signal between a bunch of different amps to get all those little underlying tones and stuff like that. So
nice. I was going to say, and it's not to create the impression that you guys are just one type of, you know, band, because there's definitely some punky, faster parts and some, you know, not quite at full heavy metal gallop, but like the end of Sinking's got like that killer up tempo ending, you know, set, you know, like jumps up a beat there, you know, jumps up a couple of, you know, almost you know, into almost a gallop, which I love. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I love, that's the track I kept going back to, that and Old Climb, but I dig the whole thing. And I did want to talk also about lyrics and your singing, because I love your singing voice also. And don't know if you, yeah, don't know if you had any formal training or just how, because it's a very particular thing to go sing in heavy music for anybody. And so, you know, I always am curious of the process or how you sort of came to, you know, did you want to get these lyrics out? Did you just always sing? How did you come about?
Always been a singer. Like that's where I started. I've always loved music. When I was growing up, I was in every like choral thing I could do in school, all the talent shows, like after school groups, the musicals, like anything, any music course I could take or any extracurricular, I was in it. And I picked up guitar around like 11 or 12 years old. I started acoustic, but singing was probably the main focus for most of my life before I figured out a direction to go in. And I've always liked darker music too. I want to say like towards like 7th or 8th grade was when I started really figuring out what kind of music I liked. And then in high school, it kind of exploded. But yeah, I've always been a singer. I've always wanted to sing. I've never had any formal training, but I've definitely done a lot of self-training, like watching videos, asking for advice. Like I try to do daily practices, and the voice fascinates me. Like I could probably talk more about like the anatomy of voice and singing than I can about like my knowledge of instruments. Like, because my voice is the instrument like that I care about the most. I mean, I of course I want to get better at playing bass and writing and creating, but my musical interest always started with singing because it's very emotive. Like it's something I feel when I do it. And it's just an awesome feeling.
Nice. You can tell. And it comes through in the songs. And I love the tone. You have a fantastic, powerful tone that kind of cuts through everything, which is great. So refreshing to hear such a strong vocalist. And then your lyrics, you have been gracious enough to put the lyrics to Old Climber on your Bandcamp with the single. So I delved in there a little bit because that was the, you know, first thing I discovered about you guys. And yeah, seems very very, I don't want to overinterpret it, but it seems very personal, but at the same time, obtuse a little bit also, like not giving everything away. So I don't know if you have an approach to writing lyrics or if the lyrics are a vehicle for something you're trying to get across. You may not want to speak about it, but I'm curious.
I never mind speaking about it. That's why I put them up there. There's so many bands that I want to know what they're saying and they don't post their lyrics or I can't find them anywhere. So then I end up just like making up my own, like what it could be about based on the vibes of the instruments and the words that I can decipher. But I like sharing that stuff. With that song in particular, it was really written about keeping yourself in a situation that you know isn't good for you, but you do it anyway because you don't want to let it go. And like, it's like that, and also trying to doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome instead of just like accepting what a situation is and maybe like you need to move on instead of trying to fix it. Like maybe it's not supposed to be fixed. So I was going, like this past year has been so much, like it's just been a lot of changes, like in my personal life, in my work life, in my artistic life. And overall, I feel like I'm in like a better place than I have been in a while. But that song was written at a period of time where I was dealing with a lot of different situations like that and having a hard time with letting it go and accepting it for what it is. Like, I think there's like a line I wrote where it's like, all the time I've wasted denying my own eyes, when it's like, I know deep inside like what the right decision is, but I don't want to make it. I want to just make this thing that's broken work. And so, yeah, that's what that song is about. And I wrote it with some intentionally intense energy because it's just a really frustrating thing to feel. Like it makes you want to just like rip out of your skin. And that's like the vibe I wanted to give off is I'm not okay.
And that's fine. It's okay to not be okay, and I'm glad you have an outlet for it, whether it's music or art or your crafts or whatever that you're working on. Yeah, that's the lyrics. I keyed in on that actual verse. That's like, it's like a in a screen on my other monitor, blown up this big because I can't see shit without my glasses, and so this big. And I was listening back to it earlier, so that's great. And yeah, that's what music is. The gift of music is the ability to either express or have it, is find an artist you love or many artists you love or a genre you love that helps you get out whatever the poison is, because it's life is short, but it's long if you're unhappy.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't have an outlet to express that with.
Indeed. So obviously Steve is not here to also share his side of this, but of course I wanted to ask, so this record's coming out in late spring and hopefully things are starting to get back to normal. What do you have on tap? Are you guys looking to tour? Are you going to tour regionally at least, or try to play some shows? What's going on there?
I know at least, so we have a handful of shows coming up. We're playing Maryland Doom Fest in June, which will be awesome. We're playing this 420 festival up in Burlington, Vermont. That'll be neat. We're playing New England Stoner Doom Metal Fest. I can't even think of how to say it, but it's the one, it takes place in Connecticut. Not sure right now what the dates are for that, but we know that we are playing it. I know there's some issues with the venues. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. But as for touring, we're trying to at least figure out some dates, like on our way down to Maryland and maybe on the way back, or like Burlington up and back sort of thing. I'm not sure. We want to tour, but we just haven't gotten to that step yet of figuring out how to properly schedule one, I guess, because we've both been just so busy with promoting this album and our respective jobs. And so, and making sure like everything is in order for these shows that we do have, because we have like one or two like a month coming up the next few months, and then the festival. So the most we're probably going to try to figure out right now is getting some shows like on the way down to Maryland and on the way back, so that way we're not just driving to Maryland and driving back without making a couple stops on the way. So we know we have friends in states along the way, so we're going to try to make something work, but we do want to tour eventually for sure.
There you go. And I could see that happening. I know New England. I used to be a resident of New England for 11 years. So I know Boston and Rhode Island and Connecticut and New Hampshire and Vermont very well. There's no shortage of places. And there is kind of a very fertile stoner rock doom scene there. I know that New England gets like known for punk and metalcore and death metal and even black metal locally. But, there's a huge fandom for this genre and these associated adjacent genres. So I think you guys will do well. Love to see you get live sometime, whether I get back east or you get out here too. I'm out west now, I'd love to see you guys at some point. And then I love to hear, what are your plans for that solo album? I'm so excited to hear that you have more music on the way. If you can share it. Maybe you're not ready.
So the solo album, I recorded that back in April of 2020, and I got a little bit of like a little push with it. I pushed it a lot myself because, it's all like, I wrote it all myself, did all the instruments, recorded it. So it's a very DIY thing. A couple of my friends talked about it. I don't know. People always ask me about my solo stuff because they know that I do it, but I've just been focusing so much on the band that that's like my baby. Like that is my main focus. So as much as it'd be really cool to figure out something with the solo stuff, or I've always wanted to try and get other musicians to play like all the parts that I've written, and then like go out and do some shows, and so I can actually hear the full thing together with other people live. Like I think that'd be super fun. I'm gonna say I'll keep everybody posted on that, because I don't have any plans right now for the solo stuff, but I do think about it a lot, because as much as I like making the super heavy music, I also like making a lot of light, atmospheric, like trippy, dark acoustic stuff. So yeah, no, it'd be neat to do like make some sort of collaborative or a band with my solo stuff eventually.
We'd be here for it based on what I've already heard from this other stuff. So keep us posted if you ever get around to it. If the time is right, that's probably what it's going to be. When is the time right? And I know you're an artist professionally, so I want to hear all about that.
Yeah, so I've always tried to get in with making art for a living, or at least like that being like most of my form of income. And that's something that I think the pandemic helped me with a lot, was pushing me in that direction, because before my job shut down, I was working in a kitchen like full time for almost 6 years. And I was trying to kind of get out of that, but I was also very comfortable with everybody. Pandemic hits, my job shuts down for 3 months. Have a lot of time to think about it, and do more research too, and to just how to practically be a freelance artist. And so then I come back to my job, and I was like, I need to go part-time. So I did that. I took the baby step for that. And then I was like, I need to get out of this place by summer. I was like, I don't know how, but I need to get out. And ironically enough, my job ended up permanently closing because their lease renewal was coming up, and the landlord wanted to up the rent, and we couldn't afford it because of the pandemic. So everybody lost their job. But that just made me plunge headfirst into freelance work. I didn't go out and get a job. I was like, this is your job. Figure it out. Now you have the time. I took it as my sign of wow, it is summer and I'm out of here. And I didn't even have to quit. My job was just get out. You got to go. So then for summer, I started just doing a lot of graphic design work for bands, trying to do album covers and t-shirts and all sorts of stuff like that. I really like working with other bands, but that's my main focus, is trying to create art for bands within the music community. Because I think it's a lot of fun doing both, making the music and working with other people and helping them do the visual aspects. And I do all the visual aspects for Coma Hole too, like the album art, single art, merch, all of that's me too. So it's only been getting better. So it's cool to actually be doing the things I want to with my time and not slaving away at a job that I hate every day and taking away time from doing the artistic stuff.
Amazing. We'll make sure to link all that in the description and send people your way if we can to help you.
Thank you.
And have you help them, because that's what we like to do here. We like to spread it around. I love to end these interviews with a wild card question. So the one I have for you, it seemed like it would be a fun and fitting question, is I like to do the desert island disc question, but instead I do the spaceship. So you're getting in the spaceship tomorrow. You got the golden ticket. You're leaving Earth. Peace out. But you can only take 5 albums with you, or 5 playlists, or 5 bands. What are those bands?
5
or albums?
Let me think. I can't. I'm gonna take Jar of Flies with me because Alice in Chains is my favorite band, and that's my favorite album of all time. I'm gonna take. Oh God, which one? I'm gonna take a Queen's album. I'm gonna take Lullabies to Paralyze with me. I'm gonna take October Rust with me. What's the name of the first Tool album? I can't think of what it's called. Undertow?
Undertow is the first album.
No, I'll probably take it. Where am I at? Am I 3 or am I 4?
I think that's 4.
4? Shit. There's so many. It's so hard. I feel like I need to take something lighter and groovy with me, a little happier. I'm looking at the CDs in my car like I'm cheating.
Nah, there's no cheating here.
There's no cheating.
It's a big. It's not. You're leaving Earth.
Yeah, I know.
This is all I can ever listen to forever.
Ever again.
What if everybody else on the spaceship has terrible taste in music?
Oh no, dude, that would be terrible.
Right? Oh my God, the worst.
Take me back. Take my own album and advertise it on the next planet.
That's what a lot of people have said that. You'd be surprised. I hate to say that my album is my favorite album, but it's one of my favorite albums is to listen to mine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's more of a joke, but I mean, I can't think of, there's too many that I love. I love Soma by Windhand. I want to take a woman with me. I can't just listen to all dudes all the time. That's too much.
Same.
Or I mean, only because I shout them out all the time because they're homies. But Heavy Temple's latest album, I would love to take with me because I sing to Elise 24/7. Even I feel like she knows that, but she might not. But yeah,
we just interviewed her recently.
I love that album.
I love that album. I love that band. They sent me a hat. I love them.
So yeah,
awesome. Yeah, the best Philly homies for real. and the
Yes.
space base for life. Good list. Actually, I was thinking Queen's kind of, you know, as we are chatting today, Mark Lanigan passed away yesterday. So brutal. And Queen, you know, between his million solo records and Queens and Mad Season and everything else he's ever done, just what a loss that dude is to us.
That
But
hurt, man. That hurt so much. We got some like good news, and I was like, oh my god, band news, great. And then I opened my phone, it was like Mark Lanigan died, and I'm like, none of this even matters. I was like,
brutal.
this sucks, dude.
Yeah, it's brutal. He's gonna be missed. But on an up note,
Yes.
fun chatting with you.
It was very fun. Thank you for
really
having
fun, Eryka. Thanks for hanging out with Ghost Talk. And, you know, digging the new EP. It's coming out April 22nd, self-titled debut EP. And I wish you the best of luck with everything. And hopefully sooner or later we'll get to meet up in person on the road, see you guys live, and take that in
awesome.
As a whole separate thing. Keep us posted on all your good news and stay safe out there.
You too. Thank you very much.